Well, as soon as I figured out that the Manson family and the death of Sharon Tate was a representation of the future, when hot chicks were having children, putting them out on Front Street to be used and abused and sold off into slavery, and the men burning through women and becoming the gurus, the protectors, the innovators, the satans, the saviors, all that. I knew I had to keep exploring everything because my upbringing was definitely a major clue on what the system was trying to do. And being a round peg trying to be shoved into a square hole, yeah, that was never going to work. And even in California, there was no way I was going to fit in to any of the things that are going on, even in California, because there was a huge religious revival in California, matched with sex and family. So that I wasn't in any of that shit. I couldn't even fit into that. And of course, come to Ohio, you can't fit into that shit because it's even more so here because of how homogenized it is over here in Ohio. So, my God, now it's time to explore even more how deadly the family is. But why is the family so deadly? Well, because they are antibodies working against each other. Your aunts, your uncles, your children, your mom and your dad, your cousins, even strangers outside coming in. It's like everybody's an antibody. Everyone's a demon to each other, and then it's who is going to survive their exposure to each other. That's what's fucking crazy. And so when that is everything about your world, the culture, regardless of whether it's the two coasts or Middle America or the UK, Australia, Canada, Europe, China, wherever, it's all the same shit. Antibodies working against each other. People going to war in their politics, religion, and science. And then you see how the system has to keep programming the human genome to get it more advanced so they can become more tolerant, more adaptable to planet Earth. And so what's going on right now probably happened, of course, in 2700 BC. Then you have the first doctor, Imhotep, who was also an alchemist, an architect, an engineer. And so he was given us so much to learn and develop and innovate. And then he realized you could just cut out the invading spirit of people. That's where all the operations, and then you put people under the influence, under anesthesia, so they don't feel it until they wake up. And then people are healed, right? But in a slower frequency environment, you don't have to worry about too much of the body trying to come back. And if you keep using specific remedies, they're not so influential. They could probably produce a lot in their short lifetime of less than 100 years or more relative to, I guess, what era it was. And then they would die, and there'd be rituals around dying and reproducing. And then, of course, the whole, pagan stuff, worshiping the all-Gaia mother, and then giving the men the innovation to be a fighter, protector, as well as an innovator, while the women were trafficked back and forth to be broad mares. And also the neck that turns the head. And so it's like, oh my God. So then this thing with these tumors and cancers. And I mean, I still feel arm pain, but it's not as bad as it was. But yeah, yesterday, the last couple of days, man, when it's highly influential during this climate change. And yeah, I have my husband, who is a very strong man, who's on the road, who does bring home different microbes that I will always have to deal with no matter what. So he's my own vaccination. But I have to deal with releasing these demons and dealing with the immune system and my whole body getting back online like it should have been way long time ago before I was in deficit. I was in deficit ever since I came from Vietnam. But now I'm trying to finally adapt to the strongest person in my environment and whoever it is that I am exposed to. So my husband, extremely strong, like super fucking strong. And he's around strong people in his job, out there on the road. And so I'm always getting exposure to microbes that are very influential. So that way, if I can survive my husband and all of his microbes and his genome and whatever he brings home, then I can pretty much survive the world out there. So he is my indicator. He is my barometer that every single time he comes home and I go through whatever I go through and maybe nothing at all, that I can survive my community. And so right now we're watching everyone go through a microbial and even political, religious, and scientific fight to the death. And yeah, family is going to be the first people you're going to be fighting to the death with, because family hangs out with each other the most, and also friends. And so when I realized that was the situation even a couple of years ago, that's why I got rid of almost everyone that was commandeering my time. I don't care what my husband does. If he wants to go and hang out with people all the time, fine. But I had to then find a way to extricate myself from obligations and expectations. And yeah, come off like the crazy, stupid chick from California who doesn't know how to have friends and all that shit. And I had to fight that bullshit so I could save myself, because there's no way I can go every weekend and drink and smoke cigarettes and be around such aggressive microbes. There's no fucking way. And I knew that intrinsically, I knew that at the gut level, how to articulate that was a whole different story that I had to go through a process. And it happened within the last 3 years. But yeah, I knew innately that I had to release a lot of the competition out there from my body, but also scale down my lifestyle. Now, my husband, he's a very social butterfly, and he has the capacity and he has the diversity in his body to handle other strong genomes like other men and even bigger, stronger women. But he can do that, you know, if he chooses to develop a social situation at the house. Well, he has the garage and all that, and they can all hang out there, and people will come through if they do. I mean, I don't know if that's going to happen or not, given all this stuff that's going on. But I know that's his dream, is to get his garage to be like the social spot at some point. Okay. But, I mean, I have the choice to just retreat to my room and close the fucking door. Because, I'll tell you, man, when parasitic energies want to latch on to a host, they're hard to get rid of. And that's family and friends. That's all the different expectation, obligation. That's even occupation, but you have to work on some level. So you have to be strong enough to hold a job. Some people work from home, and I understand that, and that's good. Some people work out there, and I understand that too. That's great. And then some people have the luxury because they are either retired or independently wealthy, and they don't have to be out there. So, yeah. In this environment, you really have to figure out what you're willing to die for or live for. And I'll tell you, man, the intentions of humanity that was set in motion way back in the 1900s, 1800s, 17, 16, there's no one really to blame. There was always going to be a reset of sorts and a type of new world order. When it actually was developed, I couldn't even tell you if it was even at 1776. It was way before the birth of America. America's so young. It's the last greatest experiment. So the whole new world order probably was coined as soon as the Roman Empire fell, maybe even before that, whenever the Freemasons and all that came into power, and then you had the different families, the dynasties, like the Rothschilds, Rockefellers, that gave us a platform to work from to develop the most advanced human. And yeah, there's going to be collateral damage. And now in America and the West, you have the choice to be collateral damage. You have the choice not to be the human sacrifice that goes and dies for a belief system, dies for a country, dies for a culture, dies for your friends and family. But if you choose to die for your friends and family, if you choose to never change and never take in new information and be always under the influence and never stand up for yourself, then you will be the collateral damage. And you would have chosen that because you were getting new information. You're getting information that you'd never heard before, or you have, but you denied it. And now you're being given the choice. So as long as the information isn't violating any current laws of that society. So when I figured out that the antibodies and the antigen, that was the programming that developed the continuous immunological wars, the political wars, even the psychological wars, the religious wars, the scientific wars. Oh God. And then you had to find a way to justify and use hormones to keep people addicted to the pleasure and paradise until they had nothing left to give to themselves and the world, and they couldn't receive because they can't handle, information like that. And then they supernova, they die suddenly. That's the eradication of disease. That's the ending of a pandemic when there's enough death of people who are suffering. Pandemic is basically suffering, people who can't handle the pain of life. That's what a pandemic is. And so when there's enough death and you don't hear any more suffering, you don't see any more activists, you don't see people resisting, they're just assimilating, they can handle the environment. That's the end of the pandemic. And so it's up to the system to figure out the kind of people they want society. So when you figure out, how much climate change needs to happen, let's say there's 10 levels of climate change. Or you can just say, let's see, the 5 generations, 6 generations, 8 generations, HE, 1G, 2G, 3G. Those are the different levels of strength that they want. So if you just have a 1G society, okay, you have a lot of people, there's a little bit of suffering, but not as much. It's manageable. But there's a lot, but then you're seeing people develop children who become monsters. So then the system goes to 2G. There's a little bit more suffering, a little bit more, frequencies of disease and cancer and died suddenly. And people are like, okay, what's going on? Oh, what do we do? Blame the air, food, and water. Okay. And then you have the 3G. And then you're seeing as it keeps creeping up to 4G, 5G, 6G, 7G, 8G. The system wants the strongest human being. And so if you can withstand 1G, 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G, 6G, and 7G, and even 8G and 9G, maybe 10G, and you haven't completely, and you're still alive and you're thriving, you're not completely suffering, you're the strongest, you're the ultimate survivor. But see, the thing is, you have to fight people microbially in your community to survive, and people in your family. That's what you're up against. That's the ultimate survivor, is people who hang out together. You're seeing who's fallen away first. It's the elderly and the children. And of course, obviously, the immunocompromised. And so, So tumors and offspring and antibodies and antigen, that comes from external. And that's all your friends and family, and also all the microbes that you're inhaling and mixing with, especially with sexuality and relationships. And then it's also internal. You get to release internally all those microbes, the antigen, antibody, the antibodies and the antigen. And you have to keep replacing relative to the new experiences and the people you've been exposed to, as well as the climate change. So it is exogenous, endogenous, autoimmune, autoantigen programming, self-replicating, like autoimmune disorders. And then you have the tumor antigen, which basically is your children, cancer, disease, chronic illness, teratomas, aggressive obesity, and aggressive emaciation. But that But see, that's the thing. That was the actual experimentation. Because then when people were around so much diversity, so many antibodies, which is basically their friends and family and children and animals and all that, then when people were developing offspring antibodies from that fornication of positive and negative coming together, then they're like, oh, I don't want to feel the pain of release and all this other stuff. So they're taking their herbs, their extracts, their supplements, their detoxes, getting operations, getting everything cut out of them. And so then they're trapping those beasts inside, and it's causing, yes, aggressive aging. And then also, if you were lucky enough to get the muscles and the innovation and all that stuff and the education and the exposure to diversity and new information, then you could be programmed to be someone like an Albert Einstein, someone like, an Olympic star or a football player or a basketball player or a famous activist or some porn star or an actor. So yeah, so now and of course, but if we stopped what we're doing, Jillian, then how are we supposed to repopulate the human race? Well, it's not up to you to repopulate the human race. It was never up to you. It was never up to your family to repopulate the human race. Who are you to think that you're that special, that your family is going to make sure the human race keeps going? No, it's up to the government to make sure there's a balance in our society and the human race doesn't extinct itself through good intentions. Because I'll tell you, if the system left it up to all of you with your narrow perceptions of the world, with your less than 100 years on this earth, you would annihilate the human race. I would not want to leave the fate of humanity on anyone in my Facebook. Fuck no. Not even me. Not even me. I would not want to leave the fate of humanity to anyone on my Facebook, especially those who are dying with a bunch of kids who are an activist, who are so fucking biased they can't even see straight, to those who are worshiping a person, place, or thing. Fuck no would I want to leave the fate of humanity in any one of these people on my Facebook. Fuck no. You guys would annihilate the human population. You would extinct humanity. All the gurus, here's my juice. Drink my juice. It's going to help you do this. Oh, look at my kids. You're so beautiful. No, fuck no. I would not leave the fate of humanity to anyone on my Facebook. Neither the chemtrail activists, neither the anti-V, the pro-V, none of the people who've been so radicalized by somebody giving them something to fight and resist. I would not leave the fate of the human race to anyone. The ones that gave you those arguments, I would leave to the fate of the human race. But I would not leave the fate of the human race to anyone on my fucking Facebook. And that ought to tell you a whole lot of how the system has constructed what they needed to construct to figure out how to have advanced humans. But oh, hell no, I would not know. And that's why the system is controlling those who become very influential, because Dr. Fauci, Trump, Alex Jones, all these people have good intentions, but they don't have enough life experience. No matter how much information they were given to them, they don't have enough understanding of the bigger picture to make sure the human race doesn't extinct itself. Because they don't realize there's other forces in play outside of their purview, their blind spots, that also factor into the efficacy of whatever intentions they have, good or bad. And when you're not aware of the bigger picture outside of your perspective, narrow perspective, you will be deadly to everyone. So no, I would not want to leave the fate of the human race to any mother out there on Facebook. Fuck no. And so, whatever the system is doing, I fucking applaud it. The fact that the government intervened with Ashley Madison, fuck yeah. To expose all the cheaters in our society, abso-fucking-lutely. So yeah, I have no issue with the government. None at all. And even though I have my own pain and suffering because of my own development that I have to grow and change and evolve, and all the storms and shit, I don't care. I'm okay with the pain and suffering. Because I did have a good life. Even though it was a struggle, I was given so many opportunities. I mean, when the mortgage crisis and before that, the access to easy credit, yeah, people did take advantage of that. But what did I do? I went to school, bought a car, did some traveling, and bettered myself with all that access to that money when the system was giving away money freely to everyone through credit, through easy financing and all that. Other people just spent themselves out of existence. Bought shit they couldn't afford, bought shit that is right now probably laying somewhere. Bought MLMs. Okay, so, the system has given all of us a very great platform to prove if we could be the next phase of humanity, the most advanced part of humanity. And so I have no issues with the system. No issues with the system at all. I support the fucking system. And so if they want people, instead of, well, that's the thing, you can't force people to evolve and change. And so the system is going to have to play both sides of the fence and be the Satan as well as the savior. But if you're in the West and you're radicalized into dying for your country, joining the military, okay, you'll be like a Lieutenant Dan. You'll be one of those families that are going to have one person die in every single freaking war. And you would have chosen that. And so when you have an advanced society, people have to choose to die for something. Or they live for something, go through the pain. But if you're going to be taking painkillers and given pleasure and paradise and women and whatever to burn through, and men to burn through, then you're going to pay the piper. You're going to pay your dues. And so I've been in the military. I've been the human experiment. I've had my issues with people and they've had their issues with me. I've played the games of the wars and all that shit. I've paid my fucking dues. I'm getting out of the fucking war. I'm done. I'm 50 years old and I've been through some fucking hell and I still survived it and still had something to offer to the world without taking anyone down. So I don't volunteer for nothing. I'm not going to be voting, and so I'm not complaining. Absolutely not complaining at all. If I don't vote, I have nothing to complain about. Absolutely fucking, I have nothing to complain about. I'm fine with both candidates and wherever America ends up. Okay, so I'm not voting. I don't have health insurance, but I have financial responsibility called, home insurance and car insurance. But yeah, I'm done, fight. I'm done. I've done enough for my country and enough for humanity. And so here I am, still giving back, but also helping myself. And so that's why I post this information so you guys can make a choice for yourself. I can't fucking tell you if you can handle releasing those damn demons within your body until you change your life and stay home and stay safe. Yeah, right. No, people are in major resistance. They're going to die at some point. They're afraid of air, food, and water. Yeah, there's no way. They're done. It's just a matter of time before they supernova. So what you're witnessing today is what probably happened for thousands and thousands of years as civilizations rose and fell. Okay? And so again, I think Dr. Fauci and Alex Jones and Trump all have good intentions. And as far as how men in our society, Republican and Democrats, treat women, well, we've raised men and women who burn through the opposite sex or even the same sex because they've been so sexualized that you can't even fault the politicians and the doctors and even the mainstream, alternative mainstream pundits for doing what they do. You can't fault them for it. Just like I thought I was doing right until I had to evolve. I came from a very ignorant point of view, like most people in the medical holistic system, when someone gives them an argument. And then I had to evolve. Okay? I had to evolve. So no, I don't fault Trump. I don't fault Biden. I don't fault Hunter Biden. I don't fault Fauci or Alex Jones for doing what they thought was right for themselves and for humanity and for the world. And so now all of us have to evolve. All of us do. Because remember, the road to hell is paved by good intentions. And so it'll be interesting to see the anti-V people who took a V and now want to claim that they were injured. That'll be interesting to see. But even then, and that's a whole lawsuit thing if you can prove correlation equals causation, but those that were fired from their job because they didn't participate, well, that'll be interesting to watch companies get completely bankrupt from that. What the hell are you going to do? That was the whole point, was to play both sides. The system is famous for playing both sides. And when you take a side for or against, you're being used as a tool. When you're taking the side of, oh yes, you got to support the antibodies, and oh my gosh, antigen, and then you have that Satan and Savior, that's the same thing, Satan and Savior, antigen, antibody, the resurrecting of the old viruses and diseases because of climate change and immune system activation. And then you have Christmas and you have Easter, the 2 times that people get cold and flu season. And then when the climate changes so aggressively, then you get the polio coming back. You get all these childhood diseases, measles, mumps, whooping cough, everything. Like, oh God, all the unveed. No, it's called immune system activation. And they woke up the demon, the sleeping giants within people's immune systems. And then you get the resurgence of the diseases as people cough on each other and hang out together. Metastasizing. What already existed, you can't disappear what has already existed. You can make it less influential until the system heats up the system and makes them more influential. Okay? The only way you can eradicate all diseases is if you extinct humans. That's the only way you can eradicate all diseases. So, I mean, I'm not going to go through all this and read everything because at this point, it's done. The train has left the station, like I said many, many times. All right? But politics, religion, and science all are based upon the antigen antibody programming. And it's all about religion and all that, and worshiping a Satan and a Savior, and of course, worshiping the man and the woman, and having a bunch of kids to deplete the genetic line, and then get everybody fighting against each other, right, through immunological means and political means and economical means. And then, you know, what are you going to do? So I just walk away. I'm done. That's why I don't go hang out with anybody. Because I know what I can handle, what I can't handle. And when I went to that party last August, and I blew up like a fucking Stay Puft marshmallow, and there are pictures of me that look like I blew the hell up. Yeah, I was around so much diversity, and it was so hot, and I was just dying from that heat. What do you mean? Because I was at a party that was mostly outside. What do you mean? And I wasn't going to sit inside the whole time, because then you sit on the couch and talk to people for a minute. Then you want to go and move around and mingle. So then you're outside and it's hot and sweaty. It's raining. I'm breathing in other people's microbes, all different therapies that they're under. And so I'm getting bigger and bigger and bigger and blowing up. And so I look like I'm like the Stay Puft marshmallow person. And then when I come home and everything is kind of relaxed for a minute, my immune system kicks in, and then all of a sudden I get all these hives. Well, I'm not doing that again. I'm not doing that again. When you're around so much diversity in a particle acceleration called climate change, that diversity metastasizes that quickly, and that's why people are dying suddenly, because they can't get ahead of the growth. All this antigen antibody programming that's not allowed to release because it's been stopped up by the remedies becomes so influential that it either sucks the life out of the person, or the person gets bigger and bigger and bigger until the vital organs can't handle that much diversity in the body, because it taxes the blood vessels and it causes them breakage because there's so much resistance to release. People don't want to feel released because it's painful. So I know exactly what I'm up against. So that's why I don't hang out with anyone. That's why I will not go to parties. I will not go into too much diverse company. Nope, because I know what I'm in for. And my husband has been around that, and he was raised around that. He is strong, built like a brick shit house, but he's aging too. His hair is getting whiter and whiter, but he's going through that process. He can handle it. And he's a guy, and guys have testosterone. That testosterone is like, Red Bull. That's why people do hormone replacement therapy when they're working out. They're taking some kind of testosterone or energy drinks that's made from bull semen. That's what they say, but it's like certain aspects, the amino acids from the bull that gives them the energy. And they're like, I'm going to go, conquer the world. So men will have a hard time changing, if at all. They were made to be the worker bees in our society, and the women were made to be the brood mares, developing all the antibodies called the children to go and do the experiments on. And the women were trafficked. Women have been trafficked through their family, their friends, through different societies, used as tools, yeah. So I walk the fuck away. I'm not part of any of that. I'm done. I'm fucking done. And these kids are going to have to figure out how they're going to survive their friends or family, their community, their government, their society. And I hope they have what it takes. But at this point, that's how so now you know what cancer is. Cancer is basically disorganized forms of your offspring based upon your exposure to the diversity. Animals, family, friends, concerts, everything. And when the system speeds up the environment, it won't allow those antibodies to organize enough to be sexual reproduction. It'll be so many clots in the body. That's what the morgue people, the what do you call them? The morticians were pulling out of people's blood vessels. The clots, because the environment was so aggressive, it caused growth that then caused the growth of these rubbery types of entities that killed the person. So no, you won't be lucky enough to get cancer or even have children. If you're lucky enough, you can find a way to open up your system and deal with the pain and suffering of release. But if you're not lucky enough to handle that, then yeah, I guess you'll have to die suddenly. And that's what's going on. So, good luck. All right, bye.